So, how does the internet work? Well, when you have a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a phone, anything connected to the internet, it has an address. And this is simply called an IP address, and it's just a bunch of numbers. We don't need to worry about exactly what it is. And the reason it has those numbers and that address is so we can identify it. Because all of those devices that we have are connected to internet service providers. And these are the guys that you would have signed up, like Virgin or BT or whoever you've got that provides your internet. And all of those internet service providers are all linked to one another in that way. And if we have another device over here that's connected to an internet service provider, it will have a certain IP address. And because these addresses are unique, we can start communicating between devices. So this one can communicate to this one simply by sending something to its address. It's just like how you would have posted a letter many years ago, except it goes much, much faster, and you can send a lot more data a lot quicker. Now you know how I said basically we have two computers and each one has an IP address, and they can send mail back and forth. Not email, but just basic data back and forth to each other. Now, we could do that between my computer and yours, or this computer could be a server. And a server is nothing more than a regular computer that runs a little bit of additional software. So a server allows you to access some of its disk space, some of its processing power. It also allows you to access things like email and a whole bunch of other things that you could do on a traditional server. So again, the internet is the thing that allows these to communicate with each other. So just to reiterate, the internet is simply swapping data and sending it back and forth between addresses. Now, there's one final part of the internet we need to address, and that is when you put www.something.com into your browser, how does that get translated into what we need? Well, this is called a domain or a web address. And a domain needs translating first. So this goes from your computer, it gets sent to what we call a domain name server, which translates it into our IP address. And that IP address will go to, you guessed it, some PC out there, which might be a server or it could just be anyone's PC. So this domain name server is the important part. It keeps records of all of the addresses that are available on the internet. Now, typically, your domain name server will also be your internet service provider. They kind of provide the DNS service for free, and all of the ISPs or the service providers will do that on the internet's behalf. So no one really owns them. Now, domain names take a little while to do what we call propagating. If you can imagine, we have all of these domain name servers all over the internet, wherever they happen to be. And if you register a domain name, whatever it is, then you will tell a domain name server, and over time that will propagate to the other servers and it will tell everyone about it. So that's why it takes up to a day, really, for your domain to become active. So that brings me on to something like email. And email is just a kind of protocol, but it relies on this same IP and domain name server stuff that I've explained so far. So if you're on your computer and you type an email and you send it to some kind of address, which could be something@something.com, then again, this goes into that domain name server and says, all right, I've got something.com, which IP does that correspond to? And once it's got that, it will then send that email address again to to a PC, a server, or whatever it is. And then it's up to the PC itself to get that email and do something with that little packet of data that it's received. And typically, these servers will run on Linux, because since way back when, Linux has been kind of the standard for doing internet connection stuff, emails, servers, and what have you. So whenever you are interested in setting up a server, you will mostly have to deal with Linux. So in summary, the internet is basically a networked bunch of PCs that all connect to an internet service provider, which connects to all of the other internet service providers. And in that way, everyone can talk to everyone else. And because of that system, we can invent protocols like email, HTML, HTTP, or whatever, and everything can talk to everything else, and we can send data back and forth. And that is basically how the internet works.